Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
What if every angry reaction was silently draining your power? Why do the calmest people always seem to win, even when chaos surrounds them? And what if emotional discipline was the true mark of inner strength? Not just self-control, but true leadership. Every time you give in to anger, you unknowingly surrender your power to someone else. The one who stays calm in the middle of tension, that's the real leader in a room. Not because they're passive, but because they are unshakable. Their composure isn't surface level. It's the result of building an inner fortress that no insult, no rejection, and no betrayal can penetrate. If your peace still depends on the behavior of others, you're not in control of your life. They are, and that's a dangerous position to stay in. Emotional discipline is no longer just a personal goal. It's a competitive edge. The world's most resilient minds have already mastered it. And in just a few moments, you'll begin to uncover the secret to staying calm, focused, and unbothered, even when people try to trigger your worst instincts. You may not have control over what others say or do, but you have full control over your reaction. That single truth is the foundation of real personal power. Anger is like fire. You can keep feeding it until it burns out of control, or you can choose to extinguish it. The wise man doesn't burn with rage. He burns with purpose. As Proverbs 16 verse 32 reminds us, he who is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who takes a city. So the next time someone offends you, pause and remember, what they're really offering is their own weakness. The question is, will you accept it, or will you offer strength in return? You're not a puppet. You're not a victim of someone else's outburst or mood swing. You are the master of your emotional estate. Like a seasoned gardener, you know when to uproot resentment before it poisons your inner soil. Train yourself to pause, to breathe, to stay silent when your emotions scream to lash out. That's not weakness. That's power. This kind of discipline, this calm mastery over your emotions, is where true power begins. It's not loud. It's not reactive. It's quiet, firm, and steady. Abraham Lincoln, even during the most turbulent years of his presidency, practiced this kind of restraint. History reveals a surprising truth. He often wrote letters in the heat of anger, pouring out frustration and rage on paper. But he never sent them. He understood something most people never do. Reacting might feel good for a moment, but it often creates a mess you can't clean up later. Instead of reacting, he responded with intention, with patience. And today, Lincoln is remembered not for fury or emotional outbursts, but for his remarkable composure. If you want to lead yourself well, so must you. Taking offense is not a sentence handed down to you. It's a decision you make. People will talk. They'll question your integrity, misinterpret your actions, and spread stories you never authored. That has always been the way of the world. Some will provoke you on purpose. They'll whisper lies in private, then parade those lies as truth in public. And if you're not careful, you'll fall into the trap. They poke, and you respond. They throw shade, and you retaliate. You defend every attack and answer every insult. But is it worth it? Here's the truth. Offense isn't something others give. It's something you take. And once you take it, you hand over something even more precious than your pride, your peace. Even Jesus Christ, whose mission on earth was divine, wasn't spared from betrayal and brutality. He was spat upon, whipped, crowned with thorns, and hung on a cross like a criminal. And yet, at the moment of his deepest suffering, he didn't scream in hatred. He didn't retaliate. As the nails were driven through his hands, he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." That wasn't weakness. That was strength on a level most never reach. That was authority over the self. In that moment, he showed us a timeless truth. Forgiveness is the highest throne. You must never lower yourself to match the temperature of someone else's fury. When others burn with anger, let your spirit remain still. Hold your center, because the one who rules their own emotions rules their world. When they slander you, Let your character rise above the noise. Let it speak for you, clearer and louder than their accusations ever could. When they try to provoke you, don't take the bait. Do not step into their arena. A lion does not flinch at the bark of a stray dog in the street. Why? Because it knows who it is. It knows its power. And so must you. You must walk through life with a deep understanding of your own identity. Without that clarity, every insult becomes a wound, every opinion a distraction. But with it, you become untouchable. Booker T. Washington is a powerful example of this truth. Born into slavery, he rose against the odds to become one of the most respected educators and leaders of his time. During an era of intense racial tension, when hate and prejudice shadowed his every step, he was once mocked publicly by a man for simply walking alongside white colleagues. And what did he do? He didn't argue. He didn't lower himself to the level of the insult. He simply smiled and kept walking. Later, he would write words that echo with strength to this day. I shall permit no man to narrow and degrade my soul by making me hate him. That is real power. That is victory, not found in retaliation, but in the refusal to descend. Every time you take things personally, you give away something sacred. You surrender your clarity, your peace, and your authority to someone who never earned it. But when you choose not to be offended, when you quietly decide, this does not define me, you become unshakable. You stand like a pillar in a storm, like a mountain that does not move, no matter how fierce the wind. Practice this mindset daily. The next time someone mocks you, gossips about you, or tries to challenge your worth, pause. Breathe and ask yourself, does this define who I truly am? If the answer is no, then let it pass. Let it move past you like wind through an empty alley, like background noise muffled behind a closed door. You're not a sponge, soaking up the dysfunction of others. You are a temple. You are a throne. You are a steady flame that doesn't flicker at every gust of wind. Stand tall. Be still. Remain noble. That's how you win. And remember this. Emotional mastery doesn't begin in the spotlight. It begins in solitude. Silence is not weakness. It's preparation. It is in that quiet chamber, the place the world often overlooks, where your strength is refined, your spirit fortified, and your future quietly written in invisible ink. While the world celebrates noise, speed, and spectacle, while it glorifies shouting, boasting, and knee-jerk reactions, true power remains silent. It doesn't announce itself. It simmers. It observes. It waits. And when it finally chooses to speak, the world doesn't just hear it, it listens. Psalm 46 verse 10 whispers, "Be still and know that I am God." Those words hold more than comfort. They carry strategy. That stillness is not simply the absence of motion. It's a sacred pause, a space where wisdom gathers strength and purpose takes form. In moments of silence, you're not doing less, you're becoming more. You're not retreating from life. You are preparing to meet it. You're not absent. You are fully present, tuning in to the quiet language of your inner world. The man who truly masters his emotions, especially his anger, is not the loudest one in the room. He isn't the one who explodes with fury or fights to dominate every space. No, he's the one who has learned to sit with himself. The one who breathes through the flame instead of feeding it. The one who trains his emotions in solitude until they obey purpose, not impulse. That kind of mastery doesn't come by accident. It begins every single day in stillness. Grant yourself this time alone, not as an escape from life, but as preparation for it. Let the silence anchor you before the noise begins. Take time to reflect on what you're building. Ask for the wisdom to act, not react. Write down your vision, not just to remember it, but to root it in your mind. Listen closely to what your soul is trying to say before the world begins to speak. Think of solitude not as isolation, but as a forge, a place where heat doesn't destroy, but shapes. When you step into silence, you become like raw iron placed in fire, not to be consumed, but to be transformed. You are not weakening in that stillness. You are becoming unbreakable. You may enter that stillness feeling scattered, confused, overwhelmed, even broken. But if you stay there long enough, you will exit shaped like steel. That transformation, that inner fortification, is no accident. It's a process. Mahatma Gandhi understood this deeply. Before he ever stood against empires, before he endured prison cells, political betrayal, and the weight of history pressing on his shoulders, he fasted. He meditated. He withdrew into solitude. His power was not born from fiery speeches or loud defiance. It wasn't found in retaliation. His weapon was clarity, and that clarity was born again and again in the silence. When Gandhi spoke, nations didn't just hear, they moved. Not because his voice was thunderous, but because it was forged in stillness. He emerged from silence with words that carried purpose, precision, and weight. And so must you. You cannot afford to live your life reacting to every impulse, every comment, every disturbance. You cannot wake up each day and let the world set your emotional temperature. Begin each morning with silence. Let stillness, not the noise, set the rhythm of your day. Guard that silence like treasure. Because if you don't learn to rule over your emotions in private, those same emotions will rule over you in public. If you don't train your thoughts when you're alone, those thoughts will betray you when you're tested. Silence is not a weakness to overcome. It is dominion, quiet, steady authority exercised from within. In the calm, you rise above the chaos. In the quiet, you become your own master. You don't need to prove yourself with every word. You don't need to defend every misunderstanding. You don't need to shout just to be heard. Your life, your consistency, your decisions, your peace, they will speak for you louder than any defense ever could. So practice stillness, not just once, not just in crisis, but daily. Let it be your foundation, not your emergency fallback. Let your solitude become your sanctuary, a place where you meet your purpose, where you encounter God, where you return to your highest self. When the world begins to shake, let your silence be your anchor. When people try to provoke you, let your silence become your shield. And when the moment comes to act, your words won't be noise. They'll be weapons of precision, sharpened in stillness. Silence is not something the world sees, but it is where the unseen man is formed. And that man, strong, stable, and clear, is the one who ultimately prevails. 4. Understand that most people are hurting. The insult thrown your way isn't always about you. More often than not, it's a reflection of someone else's pain. It's a mirror, not a judgment. People speak from their wounds. They react from places inside them that haven't healed. And when they do, they bleed on those who never cut them. That sharp remark, that harsh tone, that cold silence, it may not be about anything you've done. It might just be the only way they know how to cope. The bitterness they send in your direction is often bitterness they've been carrying for years, with nowhere else to unload it. That's why you must hold tightly to this essential truth. Their behavior is not your burden. Ephesians 4 verses 31 to 32 teaches, "Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and slander be put away from you, along with all malice. Be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ forgave you." These are not just poetic verses. They are a blueprint, a practical strategy for emotional mastery. Because the moment you allow bitterness to settle in your heart, even for a moment, you hand over the keys to your peace. Behind every angry face is often a heart that has been wounded. When someone lashes out at you, take a step back, breathe, and then ask yourself, not in judgment, but in curiosity, what pain might this person be carrying? What fear might be hiding behind their aggression? What shame are they burying beneath that insult? The moment you begin asking these questions, something powerful happens. You change the battlefield. You step out of the fight. You stop reacting and you start seeing. Empathy doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. It expands your perspective. It gives you space to rise instead of react. Consider Clara Barton, the founder of the American Red Cross. She worked tirelessly during the Civil War, offering care to wounded soldiers on both sides. She did this despite repeated criticism, rejection, and even slander from those who doubted her methods or questioned her motives. But she never responded with venom, never with outrage. And then one day, years later, a colleague brought up a cruel insult that had been thrown at her long ago. Clara looked at her colleague and simply replied, "I distinctly remember forgetting that." That is emotional mastery. That is strength disguised as grace. Clara didn't deny what had been said about her. She simply chose not to carry it. She refused to let offense live rent-free in her mind. She let it go, not for the offender's sake, but for her own. Because she had more important things to do. She had lives to serve, healing to offer, and a calling far too great to be weighed down by bitterness. And the truth is, most of us are carrying far more than we were ever meant to. Resentment, grudges, old wounds we keep reopening with every memory. But when you understand what Clara understood, everything shifts. You stop reacting to people. You stop dancing to the tune of their dysfunction. You see differently. You lead differently. You begin to move with clarity and compassion instead of confusion and chaos. And make no mistake, this is not passivity. This is power. It's the power to rise above the noise instead of getting lost in it. The power to hold your peace when everyone around you has lost theirs. The power to move forward, focused, clear, and free, without dragging the weight of anger behind you like a chain. But it doesn't happen by accident. You must practice this. The next time someone disrespects you, pause. Don't absorb their energy. Don't mirror their behavior. Don't let their words shape your identity. Instead, ask yourself, what pain might this person be carrying? And what kind of strength is required of me in this moment? Because not every insult deserves your reply. Some only deserve your silence. Others, your unexpected kindness. This isn't about tolerating abuse. It's about choosing your response with intention, not emotion. It's about living a life not constantly shaken by every stare, every comment, every jab thrown in your direction. When you begin to understand people, you stop reacting to them. And when you stop reacting, you finally start living. Let your peace become your fortress. Let your empathy become your armor. Let your purpose become your compass. Because the very moment you decide that nothing outside of you can dictate what lives inside of you, you've already won. Not just the argument, not just the moment, but the war within. And that kind of victory, that's the one that changes everything. 5. Anger drains what peace builds. It doesn't just affect your mood. It affects everything. Your mental energy, your emotional stability, even your physical strength. Anger might feel powerful in the moment. It might even feel justified. But make no mistake, anger is not just a reaction. It is a thief. It steals from you quietly, pulling from your reserves before you realize what's missing. It robs you of your focus, clouds your clarity, and dims your joy. You may think you're gaining ground in a heated moment, but in reality, you're draining your energy. You're burning through your emotional capital. And what happens when those reserves run dry? Your vision blurs. Your decisions become impulsive. Your life begins to feel like a storm without an anchor. But peace, it does the opposite. Peace restores you. It builds you. It sharpens your mind and settles your spirit. Isaiah 26 verse 3 promises, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you." This peace is not soft. It is not passive. It is not fragile. It's fortified. It is peace built in the soil of discipline, watered by trust, and protected by focus. It belongs to those who train themselves not to respond to every irritation, who refuse to give away their attention to every storm or offense that knocks on the door. You must train yourself to stay anchored. Fix your mind on what matters: your calling, your values, your integrity. And anything that tries to pull you off that course is far too expensive. Let go. It costs too much. You cannot afford to waste your power on things that do not align with your mission. You weren't created to be reactive. You were born to be resolute. Think of your mind like a bank. Every angry outburst is a withdrawal. Every emotional reaction that scatters your focus is a leak. But every calm response, every moment of restraint, every time you choose stillness over panic, that's a deposit. That's emotional wealth. With every peaceful decision, you're building internal strength. You're becoming rich in clarity, grounded in purpose, and unshaken by the storms of life. Andrew Carnegie, the great steel magnate who rose from poverty to become one of the wealthiest and most influential men of his time, understood this well. As his fortune and power grew, so did the noise around him. Critics, flatterers, advisors, enemies. And yet, when asked how he dealt with it all, he once said, "As I grow older, I pay less attention to what men say. I just watch what they do." Why was Carnegie able to remain so composed, so grounded, despite the noise around him? Because he refused to waste his energy on what didn't matter. He conserved it carefully and deliberately for what did, for wise decisions, for steady progress, and for the legacy he was building. His peace wasn't a product of detachment. It wasn't because he didn't care. It came from wisdom, deep, hard-earned wisdom. He understood something most people miss, that every emotional reaction comes with a cost. And so, he chose to invest his energy only where it counted. You must do the same. Start building your emotional reserves like a fortress. A stronghold no stray opinion or careless insult can easily penetrate. Don't react to every comment. Don't feel the need to defend yourself against every accusation. Don't swing back at every provocation that dares you to lose control. Instead, rise above. Let your peace speak louder than your words. Let your calm presence become your signature. This isn't about ignoring your feelings. It's not about pretending they're not there. It's about mastering them. It's about understanding that your emotions are tools, not rulers. That your mind is a battlefield, and peace is your most powerful weapon. So train for peace like a warrior trains for war. Make it your daily habit. Begin your mornings in silence, not to escape the world, but to prepare for it. When tension starts to rise, return to your breath. When chaos knocks on your door, anchor yourself in gratitude. Respond slowly. Speak gently. Move with intention. Every single day, accumulate peace. Stack it like currency. Because when the inevitable storms of life rise, and they will, it's not the loudest voices that endure. It's the ones with the deepest roots. So keep your reserves full. Protect your energy like treasure. And always remember, peace isn't proven through your words. It's revealed through your restraint. In a world that constantly rewards reactivity, dare to choose mastery. Choose calm. Choose discipline. That is how you build emotional wealth. That is how you win. Purpose, real, clear purpose, makes you immune to petty things. You cannot be easily shaken when your mind is locked onto your mission. A man who is consumed by purpose doesn't break his stride for criticism. He doesn't pause to argue with the voices behind him. Why? Because the man on a mission knows that every distraction is a delay, and every delay carries a cost he's unwilling to pay. Philippians 3 verse 14 offers us a clear blueprint. I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. That pressing forward, it's not just about movement. It's about alignment. It's about shielding your mind and protecting your spirit. Purpose doesn't just give you direction. It gives you armor. It sharpens your focus. It cuts out distractions. It trims away the petty arguments, the ego battles, the noise that doesn't matter. Purpose silences unnecessary wars. Because when your eyes are fixed on the summit, you don't stop to debate with those still lingering at base camp. Petty people argue. Purposeful people ascend. It's a law of energy. The higher you climb, the thinner the air becomes, and the quieter the world grows. And when your life is anchored in something greater, something eternal, something holy, you begin to realize this. You no longer have the emotional margin to carry offense. Why? Because you've got mountains to climb, people to serve, generations to inspire. So why waste your breath defending yourself to people who aren't even climbing? Why burn precious time trying to prove your worth to those who don't understand your calling? Every minute you spend angry is a minute stolen from your assignment. That's the true cost of offense. It doesn't just steal your peace. It steals your momentum. And when momentum fades, even the clearest vision begins to lose strength. Theodore Roosevelt understood this well. Long before he reached the presidency, he endured relentless criticism from within his own party. His ideals were mocked, his convictions questioned, his reputation tested. But Roosevelt didn't flinch. He didn't shrink. He stood firm and said, "Aggressive fighting for the right is the noblest sport the world affords." He didn't get pulled into gossip or petty rivalries. He didn't waste time trading insults or defending his worth. His eyes were locked on reform, on the future of the nation, on the legacy he was determined to build. He chose the mountain over the mud. And you must do the same. Focus is not just a tactic. It is a discipline. A discipline you must cultivate day after day. You must train your mind to ignore what doesn't build you. You must resist the pull to respond to every insult, every rumor, every jab. Your silence? It's not weakness. It's wisdom. Your restraint? It's not fear. It's power, channeled, controlled, and precise. The world will always be loud. It will always have critics, cynics, and bitter hearts. But their volume does not determine your value. Your mission does. Your integrity does. Your progress does. So keep your focus. Keep your eyes on the summit. And keep climbing. Let others waste their breath trying to pull you into arguments. Let them talk. Let them provoke. Let them circle you with noise. You keep walking. Keep climbing. Keep pressing forward. Think of your energy as sacred fuel, limited, valuable, and not to be spilled carelessly. Don't pour it into empty debates. Don't exhaust it in reactions that serve no purpose. Every drop matters. Instead, invest it wisely. Pour it into your calling. Spend it on your growth, your goals, your God-given mission. Use it to light the path, not just for yourself, but for others who are watching, wondering if they too can rise above the noise. Because in the end, the man who finishes the race is not the one who shouted the loudest. It's the one who never stopped running. The one who kept his eyes forward when the crowd tried to distract him. The one who saw beyond the hecklers, beyond the critics, beyond the noise, and locked in on the crown. He knew that greatness is not earned through retaliation. It's earned through relentless, quiet progression. So fix your eyes on your mission. Plant your feet firmly on the path. Guard your focus like treasure, and press on. Let the world bark, complain, gossip, and doubt. Let them question, provoke, and misunderstand. That is their noise, not your assignment. You have a summit to reach. And when you arrive, when you finally stand at the peak, you will look back and realize something powerful. Every insult you ignored, every distraction you walked past, every battle you refused to fight, it was all worth it. Because the view from the top never remembers the noise from below. 7. You could train your mind to stay calm. Calmness is not a natural-born trait. It is a habit, a discipline, a muscle developed slowly over time, built through trial, strengthened through discomfort, refined through repetition. You cannot expect to stay calm in life's storms if you've only trained under clear skies. Calmness isn't something you're gifted with. It's something you grow, and you grow it daily. Proverbs 15 verse 1 reminds us, "A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." The principle is simple. The choice is always yours. No one forces you to explode. No one makes you react. You choose. You decide. And in that decision, your true strength is revealed. Speak not to destroy, but to diffuse. Respond not to tear down, but to build up. And start small. Practice calmness in the quiet, in the ordinary, in the moments that seem insignificant. Get cut off in traffic. Smile instead of seethe. Get interrupted in a meeting. Breathe before you speak. Because those small choices, made again and again, become your training ground. These moments, those interruptions, irritations, and small provocations, are not nuisances. They are training grounds. This is the gym of your character. Every annoyance is a drill. Every provocation is a rep. And every time you respond with peace instead of frustration, you build strength. Just as athletes train long before they ever step into the arena, you too must prepare your calmness before conflict arrives. You cannot wait until the fire rises to look for your extinguishers. You must train now, before the pressure, before the testing, before the heat. You prepare in peace so you can stand firm in chaos. Henry Ford, the industrial pioneer who reshaped the modern world, understood this principle at a deep level. He didn't just build machines, he built a movement. And in the process, he faced fierce resistance from competitors, lawmakers, even his own investors. Yet Ford was rarely seen reacting in anger. He believed that emotional efficiency was just as vital as mechanical efficiency. He knew that losing control didn't accelerate progress, it delayed it. When the media harshly criticized him, he didn't retaliate with angry statements or public outbursts. He kept building, quietly, deliberately. And when someone finally asked why he didn't respond to the attacks, Ford answered with clarity and calm. You can't build a reputation on what you're going to do. You build it by doing it. That is calmness as strategy. That is clarity over chaos. Ford understood his mission, and because of that, he didn't waste time putting out every little fire. He didn't get pulled into every conflict. He had no interest in temporary drama because he was building something lasting. Empires aren't built in rage. They're built in discipline, in control, in consistency. This is your model. You don't need to silence every critic. You don't need to respond to every insult. You don't need to win every argument. What you need, what you must master, is yourself. So train daily. Choose silence over snapbacks. Choose thoughtful pauses over knee-jerk panic. Because every time you do, you're not just reacting, you're strengthening. You're building an unshakable foundation, one calm response at a time. When tension begins to rise, let your breath deepen, not just as a reaction, but as a decision. Let your voice soften, not in defeat, but in strength. Let your words become tools, not weapons, designed to de-escalate, not inflame. Because calmness is not passivity. It is not weakness. It is precision. It is power under control. It is choosing the right response, not the loudest, not the fastest, but the most aligned with who you are becoming. And over time, this response becomes second nature. Not because you were born with it, but because you trained for it. Not because it was always easy, but because it became essential. The world will test you. People will try to provoke you. The storm will eventually come. That is a certainty. But if you've drilled peace into your reactions, you will not be moved. You won't lash out. You'll lead. Let each day be your preparation. Let every inconvenience become your classroom. Let every minor irritation become your practice ground. Because the man who remains composed when others lose control doesn't just survive. He commands the room. Not with volume, but with presence. True calmness is not the absence of energy. It is energy channeled with intent. It is strength perfectly harnessed. And when that strength is mastered, it becomes your shield. It becomes your sword. It becomes your silent authority. So stay ready. Train daily. Build the kind of peace that can't be shaken, no matter the provocation. That's how real leaders are made. That's how lasting legacies are built. But to get there, you must let go of the need to always be right. Because so much of the anger we feel, if we're honest, doesn't come from injustice. It comes from ego, from a need to prove a point, from a hunger to win an argument, from the desire to dominate a conversation or to come out looking victorious. But what if you didn't need to be right? What if, instead of chasing the last word, you chose to pursue inner wholeness? What if the greatest victory wasn't found in the comeback, but in the calm? Romans 12 verse 18 offers a liberating truth. Romans 12 verse 18 says, "If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone." Notice the key phrase, as far as it depends on you. That kind of peace isn't always mutual. It doesn't mean everyone will understand you, agree with you, or offer you validation. But it does mean one powerful thing. You refuse to be the one who fuels the fire. You refuse to let someone else's chaos determine your emotional climate. Peace at its highest level often requires surrender, not of your values, but of your need to win every exchange. Sometimes it means giving up the last word. Sometimes it means letting go of the clever reply or the perfect comeback you rehearsed in your head. It means choosing harmony over a temporary victory that would only satisfy your ego. Because the truth is, when you argue with a fool, you begin to look like one. And when you stop trying to be right and start choosing to be whole, you gain something far more valuable: your dignity. Picture this. You're walking along a muddy trail. Someone ahead of you turns and throws dirt. You now have two choices. You could stop, turn back, and get down in the mud to wrestle. Or you could keep walking towards solid ground. Which choice brings you closer to your destination? Which one honors the mission you're called to fulfill? The answer is clear: walk away. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise. Franklin D. Roosevelt, one of the most scrutinized leaders in American history, understood this well. Throughout his presidency, he was constantly under fire, criticized for his health, his policies, even his very character. But Roosevelt rarely responded with outrage. More often, he would simply smile and say nothing. Why? Because he understood a timeless principle. Not every battle is worth a war. Not every accusation deserves a reply. His focus wasn't on applause. It was on progress. He wasn't building arguments. He was building a future. And that, right there, is the model of maturity. You don't have to silence every critic. You don't have to correct every misconception. You only have to remain faithful to your mission. Your peace is your proof. Because when you argue from a place of ego, you may win the conversation, but you lose something far more costly: your calm, your clarity, your composure. But when you choose to walk away, to stay centered, to stay focused, you retain control. And in that control lies your quiet strength. You keep your focus intact. You stay grounded, not in pride, but in something far greater: purpose. But this kind of composure doesn't happen by accident. You must train for it. So the next time someone challenges your worth, your beliefs, or your decisions, pause and ask yourself a vital question. Am I trying to protect my integrity, or am I just defending my ego? Because if it's ego, let it go. If it's integrity, let your actions speak. Because truth doesn't need a shout. It doesn't need to argue to be valid. It simply needs to be lived. Let your peace be louder than your arguments. Let your presence speak louder than your defense. Let your patience echo louder than your pride. Every time you walk away from a petty conflict, you prove your maturity. Every time you choose peace over pride, you take a step forward. Every time you elevate purpose over ego, you grow in strength. This is how leaders move. This is how wisdom walks. Quiet, focused, untangled from distraction. So protect your peace, guard like gold, and never forget, not every challenge is a battlefield. Some are just distractions dressed up as fights. And you have somewhere higher to go. Keep walking. Now understand this. Forgiveness frees you. It releases you from the chains of emotional slavery. Holding a grudge is like drinking poison and hoping the other person feels the pain. But they don't. You do. It doesn't wound them. It wounds you. The bitterness you carry doesn't punish the one who wronged you. It corrodes your own peace. It eats away at your clarity, your focus, your joy. And every time you replay that offense in your mind, you tighten the chains around your soul just a little more. Matthew 6 verses 14 to 15 makes it crystal clear. For if you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their sins, your Father will not forgive your sins. Forgiveness is not optional. It's essential, but it is also one of the most misunderstood virtues. Forgiveness doesn't mean approval. It doesn't say what they did was acceptable. It simply means you're refusing to carry it any longer. It means you're breaking free, because healing begins the moment you release the weight that was never yours to bear. When you forgive, you release the burden you were never meant to carry. You drop the weight. You break the chain. You take your power back from the hands of what hurt you. Unforgiveness is a cage, a cold, confined place that traps your growth, your joy, your peace. And here's the truth most people miss. The only key is in your own hand. You can stay locked inside, feeding your resentment, tending to your wounds, replaying the offense over and over like a broken record. Or you can walk free, but you cannot do both. Harriet Tubman understood this truth more deeply than most. Born into the brutal system of slavery, she endured horrors that few can even imagine. And yet, when she finally escaped, she didn't just claim her own freedom. She turned around again and again and led hundreds to safety. When people asked where her strength came from, she often spoke of a higher calling, a divine purpose that guided her steps. She forgave those who enslaved her, not because they were worthy of that forgiveness, but because she refused to remain a prisoner in her heart. She would not allow hatred to follow her into freedom. She would not give it the power to define her future. That is what real freedom looks like. That is true strength. To forgive is to say, "You no longer have control over me." It is to close a chapter that was never meant to write your entire story. It's choosing healing instead of hatred, clarity over confusion, power over pain. And no, forgiveness isn't always a moment. It's often a journey. Sometimes you'll find yourself forgiving the same person for the same offense 1,000 times in your heart before the bitterness begins to break. But each time you choose to let go, even a little, you move forward. You breathe a bit deeper. You rise a little higher. Because forgiveness is a ladder, and unforgiveness is a trap. You must make peace with the past, because if you don't, that unresolved pain will bleed into your future. And what could be more tragic than poisoning tomorrow with the bitterness of yesterday? The grudge may feel like protection. It may give the illusion of control, of power, of keeping your heart safe. But in reality, it's a prison, a slow, silent prison. Release it, not because they deserve your mercy, but because you deserve your peace. Forgive, not to set them free, but to set yourself free. Because when you forgive, you reclaim your power. You stop allowing someone else's actions to dictate your emotional script. You take the pen back. You rewrite the narrative. You move from being a victim to becoming a victor. But how do you begin? How do you take the first step towards something that feels so impossible? Start with honesty. Name the pain. Acknowledge the wound. Say what hurt you. Speak it out. Not to stir bitterness, but to start healing. And then declare your decision with clarity. I will not carry this any longer. Pray for the strength to release what's been holding you hostage. Ask for divine help to do what your flesh resists. Write a letter you never sent. Say the words you've been holding back. Let your soul exhale what your heart has been choking on. Then take a deep breath and let go. Forgiveness doesn't erase the memory, but it does change the meaning. What once defined you no longer has to confine you. What once broke you can now build you. Don't stay in a cage when the key is in your hand. Don't carry yesterday's weight when today's peace is still available. Release the past. Walk forward. Forgive, not because they are worthy, but because you are. 10. Guard your peace like a treasure. Peace is your greatest asset. It's more valuable than success, more essential than applause, and more powerful than influence. Without peace, even your greatest victories will feel empty. Without it, you can't think clearly, act wisely, or love deeply. That's why Proverbs 4 verse 23 gives us a vital warning. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Your peace is the gatekeeper of your destiny. It must be guarded with focus, protected with discipline, and honored like legacy. Because once your peace is compromised, your decisions begin to suffer. Your clarity fades. Your focus becomes scattered. Your direction, once firm, starts to drift. And what once felt sharp and purposeful becomes foggy and uncertain. So guard your peace the way you guard your most valued possessions. Guard it the way you protect your financial assets, your home, your future. Because peace is not a passive luxury. It is a lifeline. Would you hand out your financial passwords to just anyone who asked? Of course not. So why do so many of us freely hand over our mental and emotional peace to foolish arguments, toxic people, or imaginary offenses? Not everything deserves your energy. Not every opinion requires your engagement. Not every insult is worth your attention. Learn the sacred art of saying no. No to drama. No to unnecessary triggers. No to chaos disguised as urgency, because it almost always delivers nothing but exhaustion. You weren't created to exist in constant noise. You were made for something higher, for vision, for clarity, for greatness. And greatness does not grow in clutter. It grows in clean, clear, protected space. Think of your mind like a castle, strong, sacred, elevated above the chaos. Not everyone deserves access. Keep the gates high, and keep your standards even higher. Allow through only what aligns with your calling. Because your peace is not public property. It is a sanctuary, a fortress, and it should not be compromised by every demand that comes knocking. Even Jesus, the Prince of Peace, often withdrew to quiet places, not because he didn't care about people, but because he understood the need to preserve power. If he, in divine wisdom, made space for separation, how much more should we? Retreat is not weakness. It is strategy. Start your day anchored in peace. Build your morning on stillness. Meditate, pray, reflect. Read something that lifts your spirit. Fill your inner reservoir before the world begins making demands and withdrawals. The chaos outside should never be louder than the calm within. Your peace is the soil where creativity is born, where healing begins, where leadership takes shape. And distractions? They are thieves. They don't arrive to amuse you. They come quietly to erode your focus, to dismantle your discipline, to rob you of your peace. So stay alert. Stay intentional. Ask yourself throughout the day, is this conversation adding peace or subtracting it? Is this activity feeding my soul or draining it? And the moment you sense your peace slipping, don't ignore it. Pause. Recenter. Protect it like the treasure it is. Because once peace is gone, everything else begins to lose its meaning. Because when you're truly rooted in peace, nothing outside of you can shake what's been firmly established within. The storms may rise, the winds may howl, the critics may shout, but you will not flinch. You will stand. The world may spin in chaos, but you will keep moving with clarity, with focus, with purpose. So build your life around peace, not as an afterthought, but as the foundation. Design your schedule to protect it. Choose your relationships with peace as the filter. Prioritize rest without guilt. Set boundaries without apology. Because peace is not passive. It's not fragile or weak. It is deliberate. It is powerful. And it is priceless. Never forget, a peaceful spirit draws wisdom. It attracts strength. It invites favor. It brings clarity to your thoughts, steadiness to your emotions, and resilience to your journey. Peace sharpens your vision and keeps your soul light and free from the weight of unnecessary burdens. So protect it, guard it fiercely, defend it like treasure, and preserve it daily, not once in a while, not only on weekends, but as a way of life. Because when peace takes the lead, purpose follows close behind. And when your purpose becomes clear, your life becomes unstoppable. 11. You cannot be offended without your consent. Offense is not something someone gives you. It's something you accept. No one can inject offense into your heart unless you open the door. You are not a sponge, helplessly soaking up every word, glance, or accusation that comes your way. You're a gatekeeper. You decide what gets in and what stays out. Yes, people may throw insults. They may spread rumors. They may even attack your character. But unless you accept their words as truth, they hold no power over your inner world. You cannot always control what comes out of someone's mouth, but you can absolutely control what happens in the space between their words and your reaction. That space is your power. That pause is your strength. So why do so many people live constantly offended? It's not always because of what was said. It's because of how they've trained themselves to respond. They've wired their emotions for instant reaction rather than thoughtful reflection. And that, right there, is the trap. Offense seduces you into emotional bondage. It disguises itself as justice, but drags you away from reason, away from peace, and locks you into a cycle of defensiveness and retaliation. But Proverbs 19 verse 11 gives us a powerful principle. A person's wisdom yields patience. It is to one's glory to overlook an offense. Notice the word glory. Scripture doesn't call overlooking offense weakness. It calls it strength, honor, wisdom. Why? Because it takes real strength to rise above. It takes maturity to hold your tongue when every part of you wants to respond. It takes wisdom to pause, breathe, and choose a higher road when you're tempted to descend into chaos. That is not surrender. That is mastery. So how do you begin to break free from the cycle of offense? You start with one decision, that your peace is not for sale. Not today, not ever. You decide that your emotional stability isn't up for negotiation. Your balance isn't something to be dictated by others' immaturity. Then you begin the daily discipline of training your mind, not to absorb everything that happens around you, but to evaluate it, to observe without internalizing. And the first mental shift you must embrace is this. This is about them, not me. Someone else's behavior does not define your identity. Their insult is not your reflection. Their gossip is not your truth. Their outburst is not your responsibility. Instead of defaulting to reaction, shift to reflection. Ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Is this who I want to become? Does this reflect the person I'm called to be? Every time you ask those questions, you begin reclaiming emotional ground you may have unknowingly surrendered. Even Jesus, our perfect example of divine strength, was insulted. He was mocked. He was beaten, spat upon, ridiculed by crowds. And still, he chose silence. He didn't fight fire with fire. He didn't retaliate with words. He stood firm. He chose clarity over chaos, stillness over shouting. That kind of calm in the face of injustice isn't weakness. It's royal restraint. It is a quiet, unwavering strength rooted in purpose. Because when you rise above offense, you're doing far more than protecting your peace. You're setting an example. You're preserving your energy. You're focusing on what matters most. Your mission, not the noise. In your life, your actions, your consistency will begin to speak louder than any insult ever could. So choose to be unshaken. Choose to be deliberate. And when offense comes knocking, don't answer the door. You're not obligated to carry what was thrown at you. Just because something was directed at you doesn't mean it has to define you. You're not shaped by the opinions of those who misunderstand you. You're not bound by the projections of people who never took the time to truly see you. You're a gatekeeper. Zustantai. Guard the entrance to your heart. Let peace be the doorman. Yes, offense will come. That much is certain. But reaction? That's optional. And when you train yourself to respond, not with anger, not with pride, but with patience, wisdom, and restraint, you begin to operate from a deeper power. You walk not only in strength, but in quiet glory. 12. You rise above what you understand. Much of the anger we carry is rooted in misunderstanding. A failure to see the full picture. When someone wrongs you, speaks harshly, or lashes out unexpectedly, the natural instinct is to defend, to feel attacked, to retaliate. But often, what you're seeing is just the surface. A reaction, a symptom, not the cause. It's rarely the whole story. And if you react without seeking to understand, you stay trapped in that surface conflict. But the moment you gain insight, true understanding, something shifts. Anger begins to lose its grip. Clarity takes its place. Because you cannot rise above what you don't understand. But once you do, everything changes. You move from automatic reaction to thoughtful reflection. From emotional chaos to measured control. From impulse to mastery. Understanding opens the door to perspective. It sharpens your discernment. It reminds you that people often act out not because of who you are, but because of what's unresolved within them. Hurt people hurt people. Insecure people provoke others to feel powerful. Jealous people gossip to soothe their own emptiness. Their behavior, no matter how personal it feels, is not a mirror of your worth. It's a reflection of their inner struggle. Ephesians 6 verse 12 offers powerful context. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. That means this battle isn't just about one insult, one conflict, or one offense. It's bigger. It's deeper. There's a war happening behind the scenes. inside hearts, inside minds, within spirits. And when you truly understand that, your enemies seem smaller. Your reactions become slower. Your peace grows stronger. To rise above, you must pause. When someone offends you, ask yourself, what pain is this person projecting? What insecurity are they hiding behind that sharp comment? What fear is driving their anger? That moment of inquiry doesn't just change your mindset. It transforms the atmosphere. Because when you understand more, you carry less. Their words begin to lose their weight. What once pierced you now barely touches the surface. And in that space where offense used to live, wisdom begins to grow. Suddenly, their actions don't feel as personal. Their offense loses its power. You no longer feel the need to meet their chaos with your own. Instead, you choose calm. You operate from a place of grounded authority, not anxious reaction. You lead. You don't react. You build peace, not walls. You move with clarity, not confusion. Think of Abraham Lincoln, a leader under constant fire from critics, political rivals, and even members of his own team. And yet, he carried himself with a calmness that quietly disarmed many who opposed him. There was one journalist, in particular, who mocked Lincoln publicly for years. He ridiculed Lincoln's intelligence, his decisions, and his very capacity to lead. But years later, something remarkable happened. President Lincoln offered that same man a government position. When asked why, Lincoln simply replied, "He had talents I could use." That is the power of understanding over offense, of purpose over pride. Lincoln didn't allow the man's past insults to determine his worth. He looked beyond the noise and focused on the bigger picture. He saw value in contribution, not in conflict. And that's how legacies are built, not in emotional outbursts, not in petty retaliation, but in moments of strategic clarity. You must adopt that same lens. Step back, rise up, see more. Don't get entangled in every small offense. Don't allow a passing insult to define your state of mind or shape your identity. When you understand the source of someone's pain, you disarm its sting. When you recognize what fuels their actions, you reclaim your peace. And remember, this isn't about excusing bad behavior. It's about protecting your energy. It's about standing firm in truth and refusing to be pulled into battles that don't serve your calling. Because when you understand people, you navigate them wisely. You stop taking things personally. You start leading with empathy, with confidence, and with calm authority. So, the next time anger tries to rise within you, stop and ask, what's really going on here? Let that single question be your anchor. Let it lead you toward wisdom. Let it turn confusion into clarity. Let it guard your heart with the peace that surpasses all understanding. Understand and stay unshaken. 13. Stop letting temporary people control your permanent mood. Every time you allow a fleeting insult or a momentary offense to dominate your emotional state, you hand away your power. Think about it. A single offhand comment, a rolled eye, a careless word spoken by someone who may never even matter in the grand scope of your life. And suddenly, your whole day is disrupted. Your joy fades. Your focus scatters. Your energy is consumed by someone who might never cross your path again. Why give them that kind of power? Why allow someone who plays no meaningful role in your life to shape how you treat your loved ones, how you approach your work, or how you pursue your mission? You're not a puppet pulled by the strings of other people's moods. You're the sculptor of your own inner atmosphere. You decide what gets in. You decide what stays out. The reason so many people live emotionally exhausted isn't because of life's big challenges. It's because they allow temporary people to take up permanent space in their minds. They replay moments that should have been released. They let small offenses hijack their peace. They let petty distractions derail their purpose. But Isaiah 26 verse 3 offers us a powerful promise. You will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you. Did you catch that? Perfect peace comes from focused attention, not on the coworker who rolled their eyes, not on the neighbor who made a rude comment, not on a stranger who cut you off in traffic. Peace isn't found in obsessing over every offense. It's found in focus. When your mind is anchored in purpose, aligned with your mission, and fixed on God. You become unshakable. So what should you do the next time someone tries to bait you in a conflict? You pause, you breathe, and you ask yourself a few simple, powerful questions. Will this matter a week from now? A year from now? Will this person's opinion pay my bills? Will they raise my children? Build my legacy? Shape my destiny? If the answer is no, then let it go. Because your peace is too valuable to trade for momentary offense. Why carry what doesn't count? Why keep pouring your energy into empty battles that only drain and distract? George Washington understood this with uncommon clarity. During the Revolutionary War, his enemies weren't just across the ocean. They were beside him, inside his own camp. Whispers of betrayal echoed through his ranks. Some of his own generals questioned his leadership, plotted behind closed doors, and spread slander under his nose. And yet, Washington stayed composed, calm, focused, not because he lacked feelings, but because he refused to let emotion override mission. He didn't pause the revolution to chase down every insult. He didn't waste time proving his worth to doubters. He had a nation to birth. And so do you, metaphorically speaking. You have a life to build, a purpose to pursue, a legacy to shape. And that legacy is far too sacred to be jeopardized by petty distractions. Guard your emotional bandwidth like it's gold. Stop handing power to voices that haven't earned your attention. Don't treat passing storms like they're permanent forecasts. Learn to shake off the dust. Learn to smile and keep moving. Learn to bless and keep building. Because in the end, the atmosphere of your mind is your responsibility. No one else's. Choose stillness over reaction. Choose elevation over entanglement. Choose focus over flares of ego. Each time you do, your roots grow deeper. Your clarity becomes sharper. Your strength gets fortified. You become like the oak tree, deep-rooted, grounded, unshaken by surface winds. Let people talk. Let critics bark. Let chaos swirl. You stay planted. You stay centered. You stay aligned. Because the work before you is too vital. The vision too grand. The destiny too significant. Don't trade it for a grudge. Don't hand it over for a fleeting offense. Protect your peace from the noise that won't matter tomorrow. Because the moment you learn to walk away from what doesn't serve your purpose, you step boldly into what does. And that moment, that clarity, is where your true power begins. Master the pause before the storm. The most powerful person in any room is rarely the loudest. True power lies in the one who has mastered the pause, the sacred space between provocation and response. That quiet, fleeting second may seem insignificant, but it holds immense weight. It is where your future is safeguarded, where your character is revealed, and where your destiny takes shape. You don't conquer anger by burying it. Suppression isn't strength. It's a delayed eruption waiting for a spark. Real mastery comes through awareness, and awareness is born in the pause. That one small window, often just a heartbeat long, gives you the freedom to choose, to respond with purpose rather than react from emotion. That choice, silent, invisible, often unnoticed by others, is the true measure of your strength. Mastering the pause doesn't require perfection. It begins with a simple, repeatable habit. Breathe and buy time. You don't need to win the argument. You don't need to dominate the moment. You need to protect the mission. When someone pushes your buttons or crosses a line, resist the urge to fire back immediately. Instead, pause. Breathe deeply. Count backwards from 10. Take a few steps away. Look inward before you look outward. Only speak when your words are grounded in clarity, not in chaos. Because sometimes that single second of restraint can preserve a friendship, save your reputation, protect a crucial opportunity, or simply guard your peace of mind. In the stillness of delay, you create distance. And in that distance, clarity blooms. What once felt urgent and overwhelming in the heat of emotion often appears minor and forgettable in the cool air of reflection. Winston Churchill, famous for his fiery speeches and piercing intellect, understood this well. Despite his reputation for boldness, he had a personal rule that many missed. When attacked or slandered, even amidst the pressure of war. He rarely replied immediately. He would often say, "Let me sleep on that walk." Because he knew something most people miss. Emotional reactions can ruin strategic plans. True strength isn't measured by how quickly you reply. It's revealed in how wisely you choose to respond. And that kind of wisdom lives in the pause. You must do the same. Every conflict, every insult, every unexpected challenge, each one presents a fork in the road. React in haste, and chances are you'll regret it later. But if you respond with intention, if you pause first, you lead. Mastering the pause isn't weakness. It is control at its finest. It's the art of self-command, the discipline of not letting anyone else dictate your internal state. This isn't just theory. It's training. You practice it in the small things so that you're prepared for the big ones. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Breathe deeply. A coworker interrupts your point in a meeting. Pause and choose your response. A family member pushes your buttons during dinner. Step outside if needed. These are not nuisances. They are repetitions. Every pause is a rep. Every silence is a set. You are building emotional muscle layer by layer. Let your pause become your power. Not because you're avoiding confrontation, but because you're approaching it with precision. Because you understand that a 5-second offense isn't worth sabotaging a 5-year vision. Not every comment deserves your reply. Not every accusation requires your defense. You are not required to show up for every argument you're invited to. What you are required to do is protect your alignment. Guard your clarity. Stay rooted in your mission. And when the moment truly demands your voice, let your words come from a place of strength, of direction, of steady fire, not scattered sparks. Because the one who can hold back the immediate reaction, who thinks before they speak, who breathes before they respond, that person becomes unshakable. That person commands the room without raising their voice. So let others rush to react. Let them spiral into noise. You master the pause, and you will master everything. 15. Choose mission over emotion. Every time you give in to anger, you trade progress for a detour. You burn through the very energy that was meant to push you forward in your purpose. Emotion, especially unchecked, can be expensive. It drains focus. It distorts judgment. And perhaps most dangerously, it shifts your attention from building something lasting to simply reacting in the moment. Your emotions are not your enemy. They are signals, not steering wheels. Emotions like anger can alert you, but they must never be allowed to take the wheel. Let them inform you, not command you. Because once anger begins directing your decisions, it stops being just a feeling. It becomes a thief. A thief that steals your clarity, robs your productivity, and drains your peace. That's why the wise don't simply react. They reflect. They pause to ask a more powerful question. Is this offense truly more important than my assignment? That one question cuts through the noise. It filters out what's fleeting from what's foundational. It separates the temporary irritation from the long-term impact. Paul understood this deeply when he wrote in 1 Corinthians 9, verse 26, "I do not run like someone running aimlessly. I do not fight like a boxer beating the air." Paul wasn't swinging wildly. He didn't waste effort on battles that didn't matter. He had purpose in every step, and so should you. You weren't placed here to win every debate or clap back at every criticism. You're here to build, to serve, to elevate, to transform. You're not here to be driven by every slight, every glare, every whisper behind your back. You're here to answer a call far too significant to be traded for a flash of frustration. To stay focused, you must return often to your why. Why you rise when it's hard. Why you work when it's thankless. Why you pour yourself into your mission even when the applause is silent. Why you press forward when emotion screams to stop. Anchor yourself in that reason. Let your purpose grow louder than your pain. Let's silence the distractions. Yes, the insults may sting. The betrayal may cut deep. The criticism may leave a bruise. But your assignment is still active. Your purpose is still calling. And your legacy? It's still being written. Don't let a moment of emotion sabotage a lifetime of impact. Don't let a fleeting offense rob you of enduring progress. Let your vision speak louder than your wounds. Let your future have the final word. Thomas Edison, 10,000 failed attempts, countless critics, overwhelming doubt. He could have snapped. He could have quit. But instead, he said, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. He didn't react with anger. He didn't explode. He evolved. Each failure brought him more clarity. Clarity on what didn't work, clarity on what might work next, and most importantly, clarity on why he began in the first place. That's the mindset of a true champion. They don't respond with emotional outbursts. They respond with refined strategy. They don't scatter their energy chasing down critics. They harness it to create breakthroughs. You must do the same. Every time you choose clarity over conflict, you rise a little higher. Every time you stay consistent while others waver, you gain ground. Every time you protect your mission instead of indulging your mood, you reinforce the foundation of your destiny. Anger, after all, is a fire. It can either destroy everything you've built or forge you into something unshakable. The choice is always yours. Use that fire wisely. Let it sharpen your vision, not cloud your judgment. Let it fuel your discipline, not ignite destruction. And when emotion rushes in, and it will, don't suppress it or let it explode. Redirect it. Breathe. Take one step back. Ask yourself, what truly matters right now? Let that answer guide your next move. This is how true leaders rise. Not by shouting louder, not by reacting faster, but by staying focused longer. That's how you win. Not through rage, but through relentless resolve. So the next time anger comes knocking, don't open the door with fury. Open it with focus. Let your calm be louder than their chaos. Because your mission is too sacred, your calling too important, your future too valuable to be derailed by emotion. Protect it like treasure. 16. People reflect your inner state. What disturbs you in others often mirrors what remains unresolved within you. The sting you feel when criticized, the frustration when you're overlooked, the quick anger when someone crosses a line. Those emotions rarely start outside. They begin inside. When your internal world is unsettled, even the smallest offense feels like an earthquake. But when your peace is deeply rooted, nothing external can shake you. Emotional control is not about forcing yourself to be quiet or pretending to be composed. It's about healing the turbulence inside. We think we're reacting to other people, but often we're reacting to the version of ourselves we see reflected in them. A wound we haven't addressed, a fear we've buried, a weakness we've yet to strengthen. So, when someone triggers you, pause. Don't just look at what they did. Ask yourself, what part of me is still tender? What part of me is asking to be healed? Because that is where your true power lies. Not in changing others, but in mastering yourself. People don't truly see you. They reflect back what you believe about yourself. That's why two people can offer the exact same feedback, yet your reaction to each can be entirely different. One comment pierces, the other glides off. What makes the difference? Your internal condition. Jesus made this clear in Luke 6, verse 45. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. What flows out of others often mirrors what is overflowing inside of us. If your heart is heavy with fear, then even a simple question can feel like an accusation. A harmless disagreement suddenly echoes like rejection. But when your heart is anchored in purpose, most things lose their sting. Insults don't stick. Criticism doesn't rattle you. Why? Because your identity is not resting on the shaky foundation of public opinion. It is grounded in your personal clarity and conviction. So, how you maintain that clarity? You turn inward daily. You check in with yourself before the world checks in on you. Ask, am I centered today? Am I aligned with my vision? Do I remember who I am and what I stand for? And if the answer is no, don't rush to point fingers or build walls. Don't get defensive. Instead, heal the mirror. Clean the lens through which you see the world. The real work is inward. That's where transformation begins. Journal your thoughts. Speak to your creator. Sit in stillness. Reflect with intention. Reconnect to your source of strength. Build your inner world like a sacred temple. one brick of discipline at a time, bound by the mortar of truth, upheld by the pillars of identity. Because when your foundation is solid, the winds can blow, the critics can shout, the storms may rise, but you remain unmoved. You are no longer shaped by reactions because you are fortified by purpose. The chaos outside loses its grip when the peace inside holds strong. Take Eleanor Roosevelt. She was no stranger to criticism or controversy. As First Lady, she didn't just occupy a ceremonial role. She redefined it. She spoke boldly, stepped into spaces where women were often unwelcome, and challenged the status quo with courage. The backlash came swiftly. She was mocked in headlines, criticized by her own party, and ridiculed by those threatened by her voice. But in the face of all that, she famously said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." Notice what she didn't say. She didn't claim the world would be kind. She didn't pretend critics would stay silent. What she said was far more powerful. You don't have to internalize their judgments. You have the authority to deny them entry into your spirit. That is real strength, not in silencing others, but in becoming so deeply anchored within yourself that the noise around you fades into insignificance. Your power does not live in the opinions of others. It lives in your own self-concept, in the choices you make, in the way you discipline your mind to respond from strength rather than from insecurity. So stop waiting for the world to affirm your worth. Take ownership. Build your foundation from the inside out. Strengthen your convictions. Clarify your values. And choose, daily, to operate from a place of wholeness, not reaction. When your inner world is steady, something amazing happens. Your external world begins to shift. People sense the difference. The respect you once demanded now flows naturally because you embody it. The situations that once rattled you now highlight your growth. You move from chasing validation to standing in truth, from reacting emotionally to leading with quiet confidence. That's the path to emotional mastery. It doesn't come through resistance alone, but through repair, internal repair. Not by forcing people to respect you, but by becoming someone who naturally commands it. Heal the mirror, and soon, the entire reflection of your world begins to change. 17. Elevate, don't escalate. Anger invites you into its fire. It tempts you to react, to match chaos with chaos, to meet disrespect with retaliation. It wants company, it feeds on it. But leadership demands something different. It calls you to rise above, to walk alone if necessary, to hold your peace when the world hands you rage. Because the truth is simple. When you react, you escalate the conflict. But when you rise, you elevate the atmosphere. And only one of those choices leads to peace, progress, and purpose. You are not created to engage every conflict. You weren't designed to fight every fire that flares around you. You were made to walk through the heat without being consumed by it. There's a deeper strength in walking calmly through chaos than in lashing out at every spark. Romans 12 verse 21 offers a profound blueprint for this way of living. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. That's not weakness disguised as passivity. That's intentional, focused redirection. That's power choosing purpose over provocation. You don't win by lowering yourself to meet someone else's negative energy. You win by maintaining your own. You shift the atmosphere not by shouting louder, but by standing firmer. Because your value is never measured by how loud your response is, but by the depth of the vision behind your restraint. The louder you grow inside, the quieter you become outside. When you stay composed in conflict, when you breathe instead of react, when you guide instead of grapple, you become the thermostat, not the thermometer. You're not reacting to the emotional temperature in the room. You're setting it. You lead the moment. You decide the tone. So how do you rise above? How do you lead with calm in a world addicted to reaction? It starts with a simple but powerful rule. Don't fight for dominance. Fight for direction. Before you engage, pause and ask yourself, where is this moment taking me? What is the outcome I truly want? If the destination is nowhere, then don't take the journey. If the conversation won't lead to growth, clarity, or peace, don't participate. Let them rage. Let them provoke. You, stay grounded. Stay anchored. Because stillness is not giving up. It is wisdom in motion. It is discipline disguised as calm. Real strength is quiet. It doesn't need to shout to be heard. It doesn't need to retaliate to be respected. Power, true power, lies in presence. And presence is born from purpose. When you know where you're going, the noise around you loses its pull. You stop reacting to detours, and you keep moving forward. Think of Nelson Mandela. 27 years in prison. 27 years of lost freedom, separation from his family, and daily reminders of hatred and injustice. He emerged with every reason to be angry, bitter, and vengeful. But he didn't. He didn't mirror the fire. He didn't match rage with rage. He elevated. He chose reconciliation over revenge, vision over vindication. He spoke peace when war would have been justified. And that's why he didn't just endure. He transformed a nation. He didn't just survive his circumstances. He led through them. Mandela understood a truth that most never learn. Peace echoes louder and travels farther than war. Elevation outlasts escalation. So when the fire comes, and it will, remember, you weren't made to burn with it. You were made to walk through it with grace, with wisdom, and with your purpose intact. Restraint echoes far longer than rage ever will. And dignity, true dignity, outlasts the fleeting illusion of dominance. That is the quiet, steady legacy of a real leader. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, remember this. You don't have to match their energy. You're meant to outgrow it. Don't respond with the same aggression. Respond with vision. Rise above the moment, not because you're avoiding the battle, but because you've already won it internally. Don't descend to their level to prove your strength. Instead, stand firmly on your values, where real strength resides. You don't owe the world a reaction every time it shouts your name. What you owe is a demonstration, a revelation, of what real maturity looks like, of what grace looks like under pressure, of what wisdom in motion sounds like. Because you're not here to reflect dysfunction. You're here to model greatness. And yes, leadership is often lonely. When you take the high road, you'll be misunderstood. When you remain silent, some will see it as weakness. When you walk away from conflict, they may call you a coward. Let them speak. Let them assume. Because while they're wasting time criticizing, you're investing time building. While they argue, you evolve. While they watch you, you're watching the mission. Always remember, anger may feel powerful in the moment, but it fades. Peace, on the other hand, endures. Anger destroys connections. Peace creates legacies. Anger torches bridges. Peace builds kingdoms. So when it's time to choose wisely. You weren't created for every petty conflict that crosses your path. You were born with a purpose too powerful to waste on distractions. So protect that purpose like treasure. Guard it like a sacred fire. Lead from it with clarity, with conviction, with calm. Because this world doesn't need more people reacting. It's craving leaders who rise. And that's exactly what you're becoming. 18. Say less. Hold more power. Every time you speak from unchecked emotion, you lose a piece of your position. Your clarity blurs. Your strength thins. Your authority leaks through the cracks of every impulsive word. The moment anger grabs the microphone, wisdom takes the back seat. And when emotion speaks first, impact rarely follows. Anger thrives in noise. It grows louder in its own echo, feeding on every word tossed into the fire. But wisdom, true, lasting wisdom, finds strength in silence. It doesn't need volume to be heard. In fact, the quieter your spirit in conflict, the more control you hold. The longer you pause, the stronger your presence becomes. In a world that values reaction, your restraint becomes rare. And rare is powerful. We're surrounded by voices scrambling to speak first, to be heard, to win the moment. But leadership isn't found in volume. It's found in timing. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 7 reminds us, there is a time to keep silent and a time to speak. Wisdom knows which season you're in. And when tension is high, silence often says more than any clever reply ever could. When provoked, say less. When you're misunderstood, resist the urge to defend everything. Let your stillness do the talking. Let your calm be the loudest voice in the room. Because people take notice of those who don't waste words. They listen more intently to those who speak rarely, but with purpose. Their words are measured, not because they're timid, but because they understand the weight of what they carry. Train yourself to pause. In every heated moment, ask yourself, will these words build or will they break? If your response wounds, wait. If it guides, speak, but with grace. Never speak simply to prove a point. That's how division begins. That's how wars are sparked. At home, at work, in relationships, in nations. One careless word can destroy years of trust, of connection, of progress. Leadership begins with self-control. Power is born in discipline. You must learn to master your mouth. When emotions rise, lower your tone. When a room gets louder, you go quieter. When others rush to react, you pause to reflect. That is how true strength is revealed, not through dominance, but through deliberate calm. Consider Calvin Coolidge, the 30th president of the United States, known as Silent Cal. In the face of fierce political debate, he rarely spoke more than necessary. He didn't waste breath trying to prove himself. Yet, when he did speak, his words carried weight. He understood a truth that few embrace. The less you say, the more power you carry. But when Calvin Coolidge did speak, the entire room fell silent. Not because of fear, but because his voice carried weight. He didn't speak to defend his position. He spoke to direct the future. His silence wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a mark of precision. Coolidge understood a truth that many miss. Noise doesn't equal influence. Clarity does. He had mastered the art of conservation, of power, of presence, of speech. His silence wasn't empty. It was full of thought. He didn't argue to win petty debates. He led to build lasting foundations. That's what gave his words impact. They were few, but they mattered. You must become the same. In moments of anger, train yourself to speak less. In seasons of confusion, extend your pause. In the heat of conflict, slow your response. Because every word you speak carries weight. Every sentence is either planting something that will grow or wielding something that can wound. So, ask yourself, am I planting seeds or swinging swords? You weren't created to fight every battle. You weren't called to correct every misjudgment or chase every insult. Your calling is too sacred to be pulled into chaos. Your direction is greater than any distraction. Preserve your strength. Guard your clarity. Speak only when your words can build a bridge, light a path, or move something meaningful forward, not just to be heard. The most powerful people in the world are rarely the loudest. They're the ones who speak just enough to change the atmosphere. They're not pulled by emotional tides. They're anchored by intentional purpose. So, the next time conflict rises, pause. Breathe. Measure your words like currency. Let your silence be a shield that absorbs the flames of the moment. And when you do speak, make sure every word is crafted with clarity, calm, and purpose. That's what wisdom sounds like. That's what leadership looks like. And that's how peace is protected. You are not built for short-term reaction. You are built for long-term impact. Anger may feel strong in the moment, but it is fleeting. It consumes quickly and leaves only destruction behind. It is the path of the impulsive. But you're playing the long game. You're building something that will last. It's like striking a match in the middle of a windstorm. Bright for a fleeting second, then gone without a trace. That's what anger often is. It feels powerful, but it vanishes quickly, leaving little but ash in its wake. But you're not built for brief sparks. You were designed for legacy, for resilience, for the kind of impact that endures through decades, not moments. And if you truly want lasting success, you have to rise above temporary emotions. You must outgrow the need for immediate reaction. Galatians 6 verse 9 gives us this timeless reminder. Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. That's more than just a spiritual principle. It's a way of life. Because your future doesn't bloom in the soil of emotional impulse. It grows through patience. And patience cannot take root where emotion rules. When you're quick to anger, you forfeit the steady reward that comes from self-control. True success isn't built in outbursts. It's forged in discipline, brick by brick, decision by decision. Discipline is what keeps you building when others quit. It's the quiet force that grounds you when the storm rages. It's what allows you to see the long road ahead and still take the next step calmly, deliberately. Yes, your emotions will try to take the wheel. They'll demand release, demand reaction, demand to be heard. But your destiny? It will whisper. It will call for composure, for vision, for staying the course. The future doesn't reward the one who explodes. It honors the one who endures. So when anger comes knocking, and it will, pause and ask yourself, will this moment help build my future or rob from it? If it's the latter, choose peace. Step away. Protect your energy like it's your greatest asset, because it is. Every second you stay calm adds a stone to the foundation of your legacy. Every moment you resist reaction is a silent investment in your future self. Andrew Carnegie understood this. Born into poverty, faced with betrayal from partners and relentless attacks from rivals, he had every reason to lash out. But he didn't. He didn't waste precious time chasing revenge or fighting petty battles. He stayed focused. He built. He channeled his energy not into retaliation, but into vision, into creation, into empire. That's the mark of greatness. Not how loud you roar in a moment of offense, but how steadily you build while others burn out. He kept his eyes locked on the mission. Andrew Carnegie didn't get distracted by insults or delays. He played the long game. And today, his name isn't just remembered. It's engraved on libraries, echoed in universities, and written into history books. Why? Because he chose vision over emotion. He chose legacy over ego, progress over pettiness. He understood something that many never do. True power is not measured in a moment of anger. It is revealed in what remains long after the fire has burned out. The world remembers builders, not arguers. Creators, not reactors. And you must do the same. Let your legacy speak louder than any emotional outburst. Let your consistency shine brighter than your fury. Let your steady endurance carry more weight than your fleeting frustrations. This doesn't mean you ignore wrongs or suppress what you feel. It means you learn to transform those feelings into focused action. You channel your energy, not scatter it. Let your anger awaken clarity, but never let it steer you off course. Emotions are signals, yes, but they're not steering wheels. When you start letting them drive, you detour from your destiny. So remain steady. Stay rooted in your mission. Your assignment is too sacred to sacrifice for a 5-second emotional release. Your influence is too precious. Your future is far too bright. Because here's the truth no one tells you. Anger fades. Arguments dissolve. Even the people who triggered your frustration, they, too, eventually fade from view. But your legacy, the impact you leave behind, that endures. That's the foundation you're laying, moment by moment, decision by decision. So build it with patience. Build it with intention. Build it with a strength so quiet and so stable that not even the fiercest storm can shake it. Let your calm be your clarity. Let your silence be your strategy. And when it's all said and done, let your life prove this one thing. Wisdom will always outlast rage. Legacy is never born in a blaze of fury. It's forged in the fire of focus. Choose wisely, because whether you realize it or not, you set the emotional temperature of every space you enter. The strongest person in the room is never the one who yells the loudest. It's the one who remains grounded. The one who doesn't absorb chaos, but redirects it. The one who doesn't conform to the room's energy, but transforms it. They don't wait for the atmosphere to dictate their energy. They create it. They enter with peace, purpose, and a sense of presence so grounded that the entire room begins to shift. There's something magnetic about a person who knows who they are and what they carry. Suddenly, chaos quiets. Tension lowers. Eyes turn, because they didn't just walk in, they arrived. You either decide your emotional state in advance, or someone else will do it for you. It's that simple. If you don't take control of your emotions, you'll be swept away by the emotions of others. You'll become a reflection of every mood, every insult, every environment. That's why Proverbs 25 verse 28 hits so deeply. Like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control. Without emotional discipline, you are exposed, vulnerable, open to offense, an easy target for manipulation. But when you bring stillness into the storm, when you show up with intention and clarity, the game changes. You stop reacting and start leading. You stop echoing noise and start setting tone. You become the thermostat, not the thermometer. Your very presence becomes your message, and it speaks volumes without saying a word. So how do you lead emotionally? You prepare. You don't drift into your day and hope for peace. You declare it before the chaos arrives. You don't walk into difficult conversations unsure of who you are. You enter centered, clear, and anchored. You speak with calm, not confusion. You lead with intention, not impulse. You carry your emotional discipline like armor, quiet, steady, and unbreakable. You breathe before you speak. You pause before you respond. You let wisdom sit in the silence before your words enter the room. And through it all, you refuse to mirror dysfunction. You don't match the energy, you set the standard. Look at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a man who faced mobs, threats, injustice, and unspeakable hatred. He had every reason to explode, every reason to shout, but he chose something more powerful: dignity, resolve, a steady voice guided by deep conviction. He didn't just move people with words, he moved history with presence. His speeches didn't resonate because they were loud. They resonated because they were rooted in faith, in vision, in emotional mastery. Dr. King didn't just survive the storm. He became the storm, quiet, steady, and unstoppable. Let that be your standard. Be the one who leads the atmosphere, not the one consumed by it. That's the quiet strength of tone. When your spirit is anchored, your words begin to carry a different kind of authority. Not because they're loud or many, but because they come from a place of alignment. When your heart is at peace, your presence brings calm. And when your vision is sharp, your leadership becomes magnetic. People are drawn to clarity. Set your tone before the world has a chance to trigger you. Don't let external chaos write the script for your day. Instead, train yourself first thing in the morning. Center your thoughts. Align your heart. Speak to yourself with purpose before the world speaks to you with pressure. In tense moments, check your breath. Are you breathing shallow with stress or deep with intention? In heated conversations, return to your values. Don't just react to noise, respond from your calling. Speak from clarity, not from chaos. People may come at you with drama, accusations, or attempts to disrupt your focus. But you don't flinch. You don't mirror their energy. You set your own. While they bring storms, you become the anchor. Because you understand that storms are loud, but anchors are quiet, steady, and immovable. And that is who you've chosen to be. This isn't about pretending you're unaffected. It's about practicing awareness, practicing mastery, showing up with intention and leading with restraint. It's about being the one people look to when things start spinning out of control. Be the calm when the chaos rises. Be the clarity when confusion sets in. Be the peace when pressure builds. Because the world isn't moved by the loudest voice, it's led by the clearest one. And when your tone is rooted in peace, people don't just hear you, they feel you. They lean in, they shift, they change. This is emotional freedom. What will you do with it? Will you stay the same or rise into the version of yourself you were created to become? The world doesn't need more people reacting. It needs more people responding, more still waters, more unshakable souls. The world needs you. So begin now. Forgive quickly. Focus deeply. Guard your peace fiercely. And always remember, true power doesn't panic. The most powerful person in any room is not the loudest. It's the one who stays calm. That person is you. Wishing you strength, peace, and endless clarity. Stay grounded, stay focused, and don't forget to subscribe to Mindset Daily for more empowering content.